and welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli, that's Danny Kanell, that's Bud Elliott. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat, a.k.a. the Cover 3 tailgate, where we got questions about Bo Pribula. We'll get to that as we go in through our transfer portal buzz. There is some commentary about whether Tom is all in on the robe lifestyle. Going to have to wait for that as well. But let's go ahead and get started with this comment from Brent. Jumped into the tailgate before we got started and said, odds the next Heisman winner is another transfer. We have had, if you want to also include, your Joe Burrow there, then a transfer, obviously from Ohio State to LSU. A little bit of a run here as Travis Hunter, Jackson State to Colorado, was awarded the Heisman Trophy. As you're thinking about the future of the award, the immediate future of the award, you think we're going to get homegrown or another transfer with our next winner?
I think homegrown.
Just based on the candidate, like who's in the mix right now?
Are you a DJ Lagway all in or what? What are we going with? You have a
Arch, Lagway, Jeremiah Smith, Nussmeier.
Ooh,
you're still on the Nussmeier thing, huh?
I mean, I think
you won't quit.
Look, what if Drallard takes a step up, or like could Sellers win it?
Sellers was the one that I was like, it's so funny that his picture is being used as like promotion for the 2025 Heisman picture, not because he's not excellent. It's just South Carolina's quarterback is not what your mind would think of in terms of the Heisman Trophy contender, but a two-way player from Colorado and a running back from Boise State probably isn't part of, top of mind for the Heisman Trophy conversation either.
Agreed. How many guys?
I'll just bet transfer because half the country's in the portal. So
yes.
Well, dadgummit.
6 out of the top 10 in the finalists, 6 out of them, 10 were transfers. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Including the winner? I'll go transfers.
It's also the COVID class, right? I think there's part of that. Like this, we just had weird stuff going on in the sport, and that's kind of like one of like the last like vestiges of that. Like that caused a lot of transfers, guys to, maybe not be, awesomely evaluated out of high school.
Isn't that also? We could also say that about the class that went to the NFL, right?
Yeah.
All of the NFL draft evaluations from the COVID year have produced some very flawed NFL draft results.
I'm agreeing with you, but I really just have not looked at that at all. So Chip, I'm hoping you're right on this guy. I was like, yep, not like I don't actually.
Well, it was well, it was like people screenshot that it was like not only did they not all match their projections, but individually they all failed at what was what the pro teams were hoping for with what they were drafting, like both by position and player, just top to bottom, just didn't quite hit. And I was like, man, that was a really bad year. Oh, well, it was everybody whose final year of college football was 2020 and the NFL, was difficult evaluation process. Okay. Danny, were you surprised at the voting points being as close as it was with Travis Hunter's win over Ashton Genty? 500 some odd first place votes for Hunter, 300 some odd first place votes for Genty, and then almost like mirrored on the second place votes. It means almost everybody was out here with, that was your 1, that was your 2, and then there were a lot more maybe flip-flops than the odds certainly would have suggested. Did you find yourself surprised at all?
I was surprised at 2 things. One, how close it was, and one, how loud and angry and boisterous the Boise State Mafia or the Ashton Genty Mafia was in trying to make the case of why Ashton Genty should have won. I voted for Travis Hunter first. I had Ashton Genty second. I had Cam Ward third. Anytime somebody tries to make the case for Ashton Genty, which is a very, very strong case, right? I just ask him, how many tackles did he have? Because this whole snap count thing is ridiculous. We've seen somebody do something that hasn't been done in 50 years. It's way more than just snap count. It's just adding up a snap count total. The dude is the most impactful player in college football. So he's the winner. He's the best college football player. To me, I was surprised it was close because I thought more would have that opinion. But I do think the Mountain West Championship game, which a lot of people watched, and Brock Heward was on the call, really strongly making the case for Ashton Genty. I thought that probably impacted the vote. But those are the 2 things I was surprised at. but it was close in the outcry from the Ashton Genty backers.
I was also surprised by how close it was, just because based on my own straw polling, it seemed like I didn't think that Ashton was going to get that many first place votes. Like everybody I talked to, for the most part, had voted for Travis. I only had a couple people I talked to who said they'd voted for Genty in first. So when the final results came in, I was a little bit surprised by how close it was. But I mean, I'm with you. Like it was an odd misinformation campaign against Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that?
Like I had family members like sending me like these things, like ask me who I voted for. And then they sent me like this chart of like how Ashton Genty and Travis Hunter racked up in stats and like their national ranks, and all of Hunter's were off. And like I don't know where they got him from, like the internet or whatever, but it was like they were saying he wasn't even top 20 in receptions and yards. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like these were his actual stats. So I mean, I don't know, man. Like Travis Hunter was the best player in college football. Ashton Genty was the best running back in college football. Like if you voted for Genty, I had absolutely no problem with it because it's a perfectly defensible vote. But I just think Hunter was better. And the weird kind of like, I think part of it has to be the Dion effect. People are just kind of tired of people talking about Colorado all the time, so they take it out on Travis Hunter. But like, whether Dion gets a lot of attention or not doesn't change the fact that Travis Hunter is the best player in the country. Like if he steps on an NFL field tomorrow or today, he's a top 10 cornerback in the NFL. He's a tremendous football player. So it is weird. He's probably going to be the first non-quarterback drafted, and people will still say he's not that good.
I maintain that we should take Chris Winke's Heisman and give it to Genty. This was a year we needed 2 Heismans, and I was, looking for one that we could give away. Tom, I think I made the joke with you, just like Charles Schwartzel's green jacket. Like there's some masters where we need to give out 2 green jackets, and I normally nominate the 2011 Schwartzel jacket as one that I would take and give to somebody else when we do have those epic duels. I mean, it was tremendous. Like Ashton Genty in another season would have been first place on my ballot, but he was not, because we're asked to vote for the most outstanding player in college football, and nothing stood out more than what Travis Hunter did. Tom, you didn't ask me who I voted for. You just assumed that it was Hunter?
I knew who you voted for.
Okay, who'd I have third?
You had third, not you had Cam third. Or no, you had Scatabo.
I had Scatabo third.
Yeah, well, Cam.
Cam, yeah. Cam.
I just wanted to declare which Cam.
Yeah. I think I hinted at that, where I knew my top 2. Third, I was kind of open-minded about, and with Jordan Tyson going down, the angry ball of knives putting the entire team on his back and lighting up Iowa State, I was like, all right, we're just sort of splitting hairs here. So I had Scatabo as my third. But were you any surprises coming out of the Heisman weekend for you?
Not really. I do think, though, one thing is cool is the portal here, because Cam Ward went from Incarnate Word to Washington State to Miami to the Heisman ceremony. Like that's for all the people online right now who are complaining about the transfer portal. That's also like a pretty cool opportunity for a guy like that who just wasn't amazing, or maybe even not showcased properly in high school. I mean, the guy was a wing T quarterback, and you can go from that. If you went back 5 years ago and said, "Hey Cam, you're going to play for the University of Miami after you play for Washington State, and you're going to be in the Heisman ceremony," he wouldn't believe that, right? Like as a wing, I don't know. I see so much negativity on there, but it's kind of cool for the players that they can actually move around like that. Not as much for the fans, though.
Yeah.
Unless you're a Miami fan or a Wazoo fan, and then you loved it and then you hated it.
We're not going to, I don't think that we've got any sort of big, upon further review, breaking down, what went wrong for Army, turnovers, what went right for Navy. They showed up and brought the fight early. But any thoughts on Navy's big win over the weekend?
I mean, you just mentioned it. Army had 5 turnovers all season, and they turned it over 3 times in that game. And it was weird because their defensive game plan was clearly to take away Eli Heidenreich from Navy, because he had been their biggest playmaker all season. And for the most part, they were very effective at it. It's just Blake Horvath suddenly turned into the greatest quarterback in the country. It was just like, it was very, very strange. I'm not shocked that Navy won, because it's the Army-Navy game. Either one, it's like, it's never really an upset. But I was really surprised by how dominant Navy looked in that game and how bad they made Army look.
I feel like I might have underestimated the bye the week off that Navy had to get healthy, and we knew Blake Horvath took off the last game of the season, so he actually had 2 weeks to get healthy. I thought that was huge for him. He's battled injuries all season long with the thumb. Then he was banged up second to last game, and just the team that looked a little bit fresher. And American was coming off an incredible performance. And again, they won a conference championship. So I think there was probably some exhaustion, both mentally and physically, for Army that I probably underestimated, because I thought Navy looked maybe like they had an extra week to prepare, like they were fresher, just they looked like the better team, and it wasn't close. And that's not what I thought was going to be the case based on what we saw all season long.
It felt like they were stewing in it, you know? Like you had a lot of time to just be mad about not just the way things went against Notre Dame, but then losing to Rice, you know, and just kind of what was left for this season. And you compare that to what you were mentioning about Army, you know, pouring it out, winning in such dominant fashion against Tulane. Well, I was not surprised. I was not surprised Navy started strong. I was surprised that Army was so out of sorts, which is a huge bummer for the Black Knights, but obviously a big win for Navy along the way. Anything else from Army Navy? Woo? Oh, okay. Coming up on the other side, we're starting to get the quarterback dominoes. We are going to jump into the portal with a big-time addition for an SEC program, a playoff team that is losing a huge part of its offense and more. Next. Oh, buddy, we told you before, and we are fired up because we are a finalist for the Best American Football Podcast category in the Sports Podcast Awards. And here's the deal. Like, honestly, yeah, we got ourselves to this point by being awesome, by trying to deliver that multi-platform excellence every single week, all year long about college football. But to win this award, this is up to you. So help us bring some hardware, and you can do that by hitting the link in the episode description. We've got it on YouTube. We've got it wherever you get your podcasts. It is sportspodcastgroup.com/sports_category/Best American Football Podcast. Again, we've got that link included in the episode description. It is a viewer and listener vote that will decide who wins the Best American Football Podcast. Cover 3 in the mix as a finalist with some heavy hitters from across the country. And we know that after being a little bit of the Buffalo Bills, to be honest, we've been a finalist a lot. But this is time for us to punch through. This is time for us to be able to bring it home. Again, your vote is what decides this in the Sports Podcast Awards. Cover 3 being a finalist in the Best American Football Podcast category. Also, you see that QR code in the screen? What you got?
That's your spot.
Get these?
I got them. Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Hold on a sec. Let me just light up my little candle here too. See that?
We got
Spotify candle.
You didn't get your
I should have turned my address in. Oh no,
oh, you didn't turn your address.
What'd you get, man?
Very comfy, cozy travel blanket and a little candle and some genuine Swedish fish because Spotify is a Swedish-based company.
Higgy
Shout
box.
out to Spotify, showing us some love. One of their top podcasts in the game.
We appreciate you, Spotify. We've been growing a lot over there on that platform. All of you who listen and watch on Spotify, it's awesome. Also, right above Tom's head, you see the QR code to be able to come and see us live. That will be Thursday, January 9th at Tannehill's Tavern and Music Hall in Fort Worth. It was the day before the Cotton Bowl semifinal. It is the night of the Orange Bowl semifinal. We're going to be doing a show from 5 to 6:30 p.m. Central Time, leading right in, and then a watch party there at Tannehill's. So come hang out with us live. Again, that is January 9th. It is the first ever Cover 3 Tailgate Live. You can scan that QR code. It's free. Like, you can just scan the QR code, RSVP, your name will be on the list, and then you get to come and hang out in the tailgate. We're fired up to be able to get everybody all together in person to see each and every one of you. So just go ahead and hit that so that you can come and visit. hang out, enjoy a beverage, laugh, all those things. All right. Lots of movement over the weekend as the portal continues. So let's jump on in. Jackson Arnold to Auburn. Is this the quarterback? Bud, is this going to be the guy who brings it all together for Hugh Freeze?
I mean, you can have the plan if you're Auburn. We're going to spend a whole lot of money, high school, 1 year, 2 years. Those guys are going to kind of mature and be ready to rock and be third-year guys in 2025. But there still has to be like a stud out there on the market for you to go buy. And I don't know that this portal is quite as good as some people hoped that it would be. Maybe because so many more schools have just some that NIL money coming now as a result of the House settlement, maybe because of the lack of overall coaching changes that we've had. Like, we don't have just these massive, roster exodus for the most part because we just didn't have very many coaches who are leaving or being fired. I mean, it could work. Jackson Arnold is really talented. I think he's probably a better fit for that offense than Peyton Thorne is. But at the same time, when he had to go kind of off the quick game first read stuff this year, it was troubling. Now, Auburn has a way better offensive line than Oklahoma did. At least this year they did. I know they're losing some guys off that. We'll see who they replace that with. And I think Auburn probably has better receivers to throw to as well.
Given all
the guys that got hurt for OU. Yeah, right. And, Coleman and, we'll see like Perry Thompson, those guys, how they continue to emerge. But, I mean, it's hard for me to judge. It's kind of hard for me to judge Jackson Arnold completely based on this season at OU. But at the same time, like back when they were healthy in fall camp, like he was having some turnover problems. So we'll see if they can get that out. It doesn't feel like the savior to me, but I can't totally write it off.
Peyton Thorne threw for 2,700 yards with 21 touchdowns and 9 interceptions in Hugh Freeze's offense. Jackson Arnold's going to be fine.
Because you're saying like put in the Peyton Thorne adjustment, on that success, 21 touchdowns to 9 interceptions with that kind of production probably indicates that if we're dealing with a better starting point with Jackson Arnold, then we're going to get a better finish point too. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think you put him in Hugh Freeze's offense. You're right, but he's not great on the second read. But how many times does Hugh Freeze require to make more than one read? If this guy does this, throw here or hand off. That's pretty much Hugh Freeze's offense for the most part. So I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be behind a much better line. I think he's going to have much better weapons around him. I mean, he'll be facing. I mean, Oklahoma had a pretty difficult schedule, I would say, as compared to most SEC teams last year. So it's not like the competition is going to be a huge leap for him. He might even have a slightly easier schedule. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's an upgrade, but I also don't think Auburn's done at QB.
That's all the reports are saying that. But Ashton Daniels isn't committed there yet, right? From Stanford. That was what Zenitz told us was going to happen. He thought and I thought that was done, but it's not done, I guess. But yeah, they're supposed to bring in another quarterback to compete. I think it's interesting because, Tom, I agree with you. It'll be fine, but that wasn't the question from Chip. He was like, is this it? Is this the answer for Hugh Freeze and what Auburn wants to do, which is be at the top of the SEC again? And to me, I think it potentially could be. I think he's shown flashes. His confidence looked shaken early at Oklahoma, which is totally normal, but maybe he's got some thicker skin now, from developing a little bit of mental toughness, having been benched. I mean, sometimes that can be good for a player. You get benched, you realize, okay, it's not the worst thing in the world. He's been booed by his home crowd. It's not the worst thing in the world. Now you go to a fresh start. I think it could be a better surrounding for him, but I do think the offense probably a better fit, and I think they will have better talent for him because I don't think they're done by any means. And I think that'll matter, what type of system. And I think it was very smart. I think if he would have gone to Mississippi State, it would have been I don't know if I love that. Because it's Auburn and because they're going to spend, I think I feel better about it for Jackson Arnold.
But as for being the guy or whatever, I mean, what quarterback is out there right now that strikes you as, okay, this is the guy we're going to go win a national title with?
Right. And do you think that's Mateer? Because I just don't think if you're Auburn, unless you're going to blow away other schools who have more connections to him, meaning a Miami or an Oklahoma, what's the incentive to go to Auburn if you're material? Like, unless it's just incentives,
Mm-hmm. All right, another big one that happened this weekend. Miller Moss is your new quarterback at Louisville. I think we kind of all saw it trending that way. Danny, what are your thoughts about the fit there?
So I actually think it's a good fit. I mean, I think any quarterback going to play with Jeff Brom and his system that's smart, that will be able to pick up a system pretty quickly, should work. We saw Tyler Shuck have a pretty nice year after it was all said and done. The reports were that they were coming out that, he looked strong in camp. I would expect Miller Moss to have a similar type of season. Are they keeping the freshman running back, the kid from Miami? Like, that's to me, I think they are, Isaac Brown. But like, they usually have a pretty good cast of characters for the ACC to be competitive. I go back to that game. Like, if I threw in tape of Miller Moss, the game he had against LSU, he looked phenomenal. Then as things kind of started to break down, the offensive line struggles, he made more turnovers. So that'll be key, but that describes a lot of quarterbacks. But I've seen him be able to step up and make any throw, to be able to lead the team. Even against Michigan, I know they lost, but he played pretty well in that game, even like responding from turnovers. He's going to have to eliminate that issue, but I think he'll do a better job of it at Louisville.
Bud?
I don't hate it, right? But like, again, does this get you excited? Do we think Miller Moss is an upgrade from Tyler Shuck? I don't.
No.
I think he's roughly the same in a lot of ways.
I think physically, like, he's less talented, like meaningfully so.
Probably not as
I don't think he has
I
don't think he has the absolute juice on his arm that Shuck does, but I think he might be more accurate.
That's true. Who does Louisville have in the non-con this year?
Let's see.
Louisville 2025.
Do they get Notre Dame this year?
Live research on the Cover 3 podcast. So Eastern Kentucky, James Madison, Bowling Green, Kentucky, Boston College, Cal, Clemson, UVA, Miami, Pitt, SMU, Vatech.
Oh, 12-0.
That's not easy, but that is manageable.
Yeah.
So, especially the non-con, the way that starts out, like they should start 3-0. I mean, JMU's beaten some ACC teams before, but Chip's power's out, so we really don't need to highlight that.
I bet their win total is probably 8.5 when it's all said and done.
Yeah, they're probably what?
9.5.
They're like slight dogs at home to Clemson. They're dogs at Miami. Yeah, I think somewhere around there, right? Like maybe 8.5. That's probably fair. Can Miller Moss get you to that?
I think so. Like I felt like watching Miller Moss at USC last season. Like, it was weird because you're so used to watching USC have like Caleb Williams and those guys, and Miller Moss is not Caleb Williams, nor is he like a Heisman kind of first-round draft pick tier player. But I still thought, as far as most college QBs are concerned, he did a perfectly good job for that team. Like, I don't think he was a problem for USC, which is why, to me, like, when they benched him for Maeva, I understood that was probably more of a move made with the future in mind.
Yeah, to evaluate Maeva.
Yeah, but USC looked no different. In fact, I would argue they looked slightly worse in a lot of areas, especially when it came to the passing game. So I don't know. I think Miller Moss going to Louisville is probably going to be pretty good for them in the ACC. I think that they'll be in the running for, the ACC title game and maybe a shot at a at-large berth. Not because of Miller Moss, but I think with Miller Moss. Were there any other kind of portal moves you guys saw this weekend that stood out before I get to the one that made me mad?
Ooh. I want to hear the one that made you mad, actually.
Is this the big one? Is this the one that made me mad?
Bo Pribula.
Yeah.
Entering the portal and leaving the team.
Yeah.
5 days before.
In the dust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The week of a game.
Yeah. And I got a lot of pushback by being upset about it. And like, listen, I know it's a tough decision. I know that the schedule is completely effed, that the way that they're doing it by having the portal open now. And if you're a quarterback, it's a game of musical chairs. Like, if you wait too long, there might not be a spot left. I understand all of it. But your team's in the playoff, and it's not like you're a third or fourth stringer who hasn't played. Like, you've been a part of that offense all season, and you can talk about how difficult the situation is. The team that they're playing, Penn State, SMU, their backup quarterback who began the season as the starter was benched in the middle of the season. He's in the portal, but guess what? He's not leaving the team before the playoff is over. So I think I get it. I don't really blame Pribula as much as I blame the situation, but I still think that is a bad decision. And I think that will impact how other teams look at him.
Also, even more, the thing that bothered me probably the most is that he's played a lot. Like, they have a package for him in Wildcat. They utilize him as a running quarterback. They used him when Drew Aller got hurt. Like, you just saw and experienced what it feels like to help your team. And now you're leaving. Like, if you're SMU, you don't have to prep for that package anymore, which is, that might seem like a little thing, but they absolutely do. Here's the one out, because I'm with you, Tom, and I'm surprised because you're always very player friendly. Like, you're very understanding of the system. I have begrudgingly become more of somebody who's okay with the times. But the only thing that I would say, what if he told James Franklin, this is what we don't know, because he said, I discussed this with my family and my coaches. If James Franklin said, if your head isn't here, then you're gone. Like, and there's a chance he might have said that. True. Then I take any criticism of Pribula off the table.
Agreed. Like, I think put it all on James.
Exactly. Then I'd be like, James Franklin, what are you doing? Like, why would you do that? I don't know. That was just a hypothetical I threw out there. I don't know why James Franklin would do that, but maybe, some coaches, they have different philosophies as far as the way they approach the portal. A lot of coaches have a hard line. If you enter the portal, you're done. Like, you're not welcome here anymore, which I think is antiquated. I even brought it on here about Kenny Dillingham when buying his philosophy of, sure, you want to hit the portal, I'll help you be placed somewhere that's a good fit for you and get more money, but let's finish what we started. Like, I think that's a brilliant strategy. So I don't know if that's the case. The more likelihood is his agent and his team around him are telling him, you have to get in the portal now so that spots aren't taken. And so you need to be ready to go, which is also a product of the system. But you could have played 2 more games and the semester doesn't start. Like, you could have waited and seen what's out there. And I don't think it would have changed that much.
I mean, like, does some of this come down to whether Franklin would have let him play if he entered?
Yeah, but we don't know. That's the thing. The situation,
right? Like, that's the detail we don't have in this.
Right.
Well, yeah, like we said, though, if that's a team decision, if it's Franklin's decision, I think it's a dumb decision on his part. If it's Pribula's decision, I think it's a dumb decision on his part. It's a dumb decision either way. Like, we talked about the playoff and how it was going to make more meaningful games and it'll solve opt-outs. And again, I'm not blaming Pribula or Franklin. I understand the situation is completely jacked up. It's just, to leave your team during a playoff while you still have something to play for, when you're not a backup who has not played, but you're literally a quarterback who is used in a lot of packages, to me is lame as hell.
Malik Murphy did it last year. Worked out pretty well for him, right? He went to Duke, crushed it. Now he's back in the portal, probably going to get a bigger payday at somewhere else.
You think so?
Well, I
thought Duke was offering him a pay cut.
Oh, really?
Like, I don't think that they liked what they got in him.
Chris, Bo Pribula is a college graduate who will be making 6 figures next year to play football. He's not a tiny little baby boy who can't be criticized.
He what'd y'all make of his messaging? Because he's trying to blame it on everything else.
Yes. That's making me wonder if Franklin said he couldn't play, but I also think it's probably crafted by his agent so he doesn't get blasted as well. And by the way, since we're on it, like, the lengthy statements, the love letters to the university and to your teammates and your family, and after, a lot of prayer and God told me and all this garbage. If you want to go, just go. We don't need the love letter. You're not always going to be a Penn State guy. Not anymore. Like, you could have been, but you're not anymore. Like, you will be a Penn State alum because he did graduate, which is awesome. But is Joe Burrow a Buckeye?
No.
To me, you're not going to be a Nittany Lion for life. You're going to be wherever you go next.
Especially if Penn State competes for a national championship.
Right.
Exactly. Like, are you
does
coming?
If they win, does he get a ring?
That's what I was going to say. Are you coming back for ring night?
Oh, yeah. He definitely would.
No, I say mail that.
Be awkward, I think.
That's a mail.
Yeah.
Maybe James Franklin doesn't send him one.
Have y'all I apologize about that. One of the power goes pop. And then all of a sudden you're like, uh-oh. Have y'all done Miller Moss yet?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We all liked it.
Fits the profile.
It does. 100%.
Probably get the same play as you got with Tyler Shuck, which I think was solid. I think you'll get solid quarterback play.
There is a level of is Jeff Brom like one of the coaches that you trust to take a joystick quarterback and get the most out of him?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like maybe number 1 or like top 3 on that list.
He's up there.
Definitely up there. I don't know if I'd put him top 3 exactly, but he's close.
Yeah. What are some of the other portal moves or either enters or commitments that have stood out over the last couple of days?
Well, I think the Pribula move also signifies that Aller's probably coming back.
I think
he announced, didn't he?
Did he announce that he's coming back? All
Yeah.
right, so that's interesting. So I think Aller could have done pretty well in the draft. Mateer entered the portal officially today, and I haven't seen it confirmed by anybody, but I have seen it mentioned that there's a no contact tag on it. So
Oklahoma.
Is he going to Oklahoma with his
Yeah.
OC?
That's been the plan.
Yeah.
And so do you let
does
Mateer and
Hawkins stay behind?
Hawkins? Yeah. Do you let Mateer and Hawkins battle it out? I mean, if I'm a coach, I would like that because then you've got, 2 good options.
Depth.
But do you
And you could like either one of them, if it like in the spring, battle it out. Hawkins Jr.'s coming back. Like if he loses the job, he can enter the portal, but so can Mateer, right? There's no limits. So technically either one could be like, all right, I lost the job. I'm out.
I mean, do we think there's a lot of different stuff going on here? Like who does Miami go get if Mateer is going to OU?
Cromanoke.
I mean,
Mendoza?
is he going to Mississippi State?
Oh yeah, Mendoza coming back home.
Am I the only one? Like, I like Francisco. Am I the only one who's a little surprised by how interested so many teams seem to be in him?
Our guys have number 2 quarterback. I was surprised at that.
Well, but like, who would we have over him?
Oh.
I mean, Cromanoke's number 1, isn't he? But Mateer's over him. Cromanoke's. But I'm just like, I liked Fernando. I thought he was good with Cal. And it is one of those years where the portal is not like there aren't the Cam Ward types in the portal this year, at least so far. So maybe that's it. It's just I saw some of the programs that were interested in him, and I was like, oh, all right then.
I thought there were a couple interesting things. One, Cromanoke being that high, I think speaks to the poor quarterback class we have so far.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's a lot of that ranking is going to be his potential long-term upside. I don't think he's ready. He could arrive a year ahead of schedule and crush it next year, but it's probably, not likely that it happens. I thought Van Buren going to Mississippi State is interesting. Like a guy who was playing
Going to
okay
LSU,
for Mississippi
LSU,
State.
yeah.
Now, I did not like some of the stuff that LSU did at quarterback for the prior 2 years, high school wise. So, like, I wasn't a real Ricky Collins guy, and then the kid out of Jacksonville, I was not a fan of. So, I think this is a nice get for them to be kind of the heir apparent to Nuss when he leaves. And LSU's also spending quite a bit, I think, in the portal. So, Brian Kelly hot seat if they don't win something next year, I would assume. And it seems like they are, finding a way to spin after being really, really cheap in the portal this past year, and it hurt them. The other one.
What did Brian Kelly say? He said, "We don't buy players." Remember talking about all the defensive linemen that
He
came
was speaking in the moment.
Technically, they're only rentals.
Well, there you go. How about that? Sorry, but I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, not at all. The other one is Nebraska getting like their D-line room rated, and then they end up getting Williams Winery from Missouri, who people are like, oh, he sucked. I'm like, we talked on this show. You can find the tape from last year when I was out there at Under Armour practice. Like, this kid is very high potential, but he does not look close. Like typically the dudes who crush in their freshman year, they also kind of crush the Under Armour practices, or the All-American Bowl practices. Like it's you're just kind of better now than everybody else. Doesn't mean you're gonna be the best guy in 3-4 years for the draft, but I'm not that concerned that Winery did not actually play very well or very much for Missouri, because I thought he was extremely raw as a prospect anyway. So maybe Nebraska can get something out of him.
Before even we got the Pribula news, I looked at the college football playoff, and I made a list of quarterback rooms that might create a different level of quarterback in terms of the portal availability. Penn State was on that list. Obviously, SMU has Preston Stone in the portal as well. And even though Preston Stone definitely struggled at the beginning of this season, I'm not going to entirely give up on the idea that he might be able to land somewhere with the team and a coach who can be able to tap into some of that potential. I think Notre Dame's got several quarterbacks, obviously that could all of a sudden hit the portal and be interesting once the Fighting Irish season ends. Obviously, Texas, where you've got Quinn and or Arch, and we assume that might be Quinn. Ohio State still has some super talented players that are in that room right now where they're going to have to make some decisions. Penn State, and then is Oregon going to move on to Dante Moore?
I don't know.
If Dante Moore hits the portal, is he one of the top? I would rather have Dante Moore or Luke Kromenoke would be an interesting debate.
This for me would be part of that discussion we had last week during Day Trader Danny, when I said if a school could afford him and decides to pass, I would say buyer beware. Because Dante Moore has seen him practice all season long. They've seen him prep. They've seen everything that he does.
They recruited him. He was first committed to the Ducks coming out of high school and then flipped to UCLA.
But if he's there and they say thanks but no thanks, I would be very concerned if I'm the next team. Like if they like him, they should pay him and say, you're our guy and keep rolling, which that would be my expectation. I haven't heard anything. Like, it's been quiet because he hasn't had to play much. Dylan Gabriel's been healthy, so you haven't had to need him. But if they let him walk, I'd be a little bit nervous.
I would agree with that. I'm curious, like, where Novosad goes for Oregon. Yep. I know there were some like Georgia rumors there, so we'll see if those are real or not. Just like something to look into. Like, this Georgia, everybody's all rah about Stockton, and maybe he is the guy, but I don't know.
Right now,
he's the guy for the next month, but like, is he the guy for next year? I don't know. Notre Dame is fascinating. We think Milroe's going pro.
Yes,
those are the reports this morning.
This morning said pro because they've been all over the map.
Here's the phrasing, and it's very specific. Jalen Milroe expected to go to the NFL, but decision will come after bowl game.
Meaning, I want to see what everybody else has as far as NIL offers for me to transfer.
Right?
Probably, yeah.
Let's give you a little more time to kind of pass the hat and see what we got.
Yeah.
I would think.
What would Alabama do at quarterback if Milroe goes pro or leaves?
Who's the kid that DeBoer brought from Washington with him?
Oh, the tall kid?
Austin Mack. Is that right?
Yeah.
They also have Ty Thompson, and they have
Ty Simpson.
Sorry, yes, not Ty Thompson. Good Lord.
Ty Thompson's the only quarterback left at Tulane.
At Tulane, yeah. Would Bama go get a transfer? This is also kind of one of those things. I think there is some risk if you're a coach of being like addicted to floor and not being willing to bet on ceiling. And it's risky, obviously, because if you suck, you may get fired. So I get it. But if you want to really like hit the upside, the best upside may be in somebody who's not in the portal. It may be somebody who you actually need to give a chance in games to see like, oh, this guy's actually, pretty good. And we see this all the time. Like, coaches think like, oh, practice is important, and it is. But we'll use the Utah example, or we go over this list every year. We can kind of dig it out again if we want. But a lot of times coaches pick the wrong guy at a camp, and going for somebody who's proven out of the portal, that probably gives you more floor because you've seen it. But also it in some cases probably caps your ceiling. Not really sure some of these guys have that ceiling, whereas somebody on your existing roster, may have more ceiling. But it's that comfort feel like going to get somebody can play.
Who is gonna land Tom's favorite player, the whoopsie daisy king, known as Anthony Colandrea? I mean, that should be the hottest commodity out there in the portal.
I mean, Luke Altmaier's coming back, or else I'd be all over trying to get Colandrea to Champaign.
How about that big announcement at the basketball game? It's great. Running it back. Excited for that. It's a good thing. Some continuity. He played really good.
But Frank, I know Pat Bryant's going to the NFL.
Yep.
Is Franklin gone too?
Yep. I know Illinois has been hosting a few receiver transfers the last week or so. Hoping to get one. They like what they have in the room, but they want a proven guy to be kind of, just add to the room.
Who do you think, like, would be in the conversation to delay this Milroe announcement? Is it like Bama figure out if you want to pay me or not? Or if it's not Bama, like what team do you think actually is a fit for him, both style of offense and also money-wise? Like, let's say you probably need to come up with what, 3.5, 4?
Golly.
I mean, look,
I know.
These coaches are making 8 or 9, and the quarterback's way more important than the head coach to winning. You know, like I'd rather have a stud quarterback and Chip coaching my team than a stud coach and some shit quarterback. Like it's the players win the games.
That's right. That's exactly what I would tell my team. You guys go out there and figure it out.
I mean,
call whatever you want.
But I do think you have to be careful,
Cat
Bud.
says Notre Dame, which makes a lot of sense, actually.
I think you've got to be careful, Bud, because this quarterback will not be a savior by himself.
True.
Like if you pay for a great quarterback, you better put good talent around him.
But anybody paying $3 or $4 million for a quarterback
should be able to.
They're not one of these schools that's paying 15 total. They're going to be one of those schools that's paying 25, 30, low 30s.
Right.
I would think, unless you just have really bad cap management, which it's a new world. Maybe some people do. I don't know.
By the way, I was not aware of this, but I was looking at the quarterback class, the transfer portal class. Devin Brown plays at Ohio State. He is in the portal to transfer, but he is going to finish the season with the Buckeyes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's how it should work. Like you can go see your offers, see what's out there. And then once the season is done, once you've chased your championship, then it's over and you can go. Like I didn't realize that. And you're, rivals, you're both in the playoffs, very similar situations. I know he hasn't played as much, which probably makes it even more glaring. He hasn't played as much as Pribula.
He was the first one called on. When was it? When did Howard get a little banged up, or maybe just lost his helmet, and then Devin Brown had to come in? It was either
was
Indiana,
Michigan, wasn't it?
Michigan or Indiana.
I think it was the Indiana game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Came in, ran one play, and was like, yeah, Great try hard. Great moments and try
What
hard.
about Colorado for Milroe?
Be interesting.
I don't know. They'd have to change systems because he's more of a like Pat Shermer. If he's there, he's running NFL style.
Yeah.
If you're, if you are
Quinn Ewers,
Daniels,
Colorado,
right? Like if you're Milroe, you see what Denbrock did with Jaden Daniels. Maybe you're like, yeah, that fits me.
And so you go to Notre Dame.
But is Riley Leonard done? I thought he had another year left.
he does.
That could be a portal name.
That would be. We're getting
would be something.
lost in the weeds here, boys. What about Michigan for Jalen Milroe? As a bridge to Underwood.
Ooh.
I mean, Orgy is in the portal, so why don't you go get the real thing?
How does Riley Leonard have another year yet?
I don't know. I swore he had 2 years of eligibility left, but I could be wrong. It's hard with COVID. Everybody's got like 55 years of eligibility, and it's hard to keep track of who has what.
I mean,
Tailgate saying he's already committed to the Senior Bowl. He's like,
so he's
Riley
gone.
Leonard is?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then Notre Dame makes sense for Milroe too.
Yeah.
Is USC committed to Maeva?
No.
No.
I would think they'd be in the market.
Yeah.
I think he's probably back, but probably not very expensive. Like if you want to compete. But we're getting down the list is getting pretty thin here. Right?
What about
like,
Caden
especially
Salter?
if Milroe and Ewers go pro, it's really kind of in a list.
So all of a sudden, North Carolina quarterback Max Johnson doesn't sound as bad.
You know who's still out there?
Who?
Matt Sluka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the buyer beware.
Speaking of guys who are probably like not correctly evaluated in practice and the coaches picked the wrong guy.
Sluka
I believe
starting over
Williams is
Hodge
better.
Malik Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. All right. Oh, actually, we'll hit that right on the other side. Coming up on the other side, a very interesting transfer-related bit of bowl news, and get those bowl-picking fingers ready because we got the Frisco Bowl coming up on Tuesday night. We'll give you a look ahead to Memphis, West Virginia, and more next.
CBS CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
We got Orbit Chaser in the tailgate saying Jalen Milroe with Rich Rod to West Virginia.
They got that kind of loot.
I mean,
it's not going to be cheap.
As
Does
a college,
he wants to do that? Like,
Yeah.
like it's Rich Rod. You know what you're going to do? Carry the ball 200 times.
yeah, I was gonna say, as a college football fan, I would love that.
I would
fit.
say yes.
As Jalen Milroe, I would probably not love that fit.
If West Virginia got Jalen Milroe and Jalen Milroe actually was willing to play the style that Rich Rodriguez would require of him, which I think he would be an absolute dumbass to do unless they cut him like a $6 or $7 million check, because Rich Rod would, and then at that point should, run him into the absolute ground, but they would win the Big 12.
Yes.
I know.
If he stayed healthy.
I know that Pat McAfee is a huge fan of the Cover 3 podcast. We appreciate your support. Right back at you, dog. So what Bud just said is real. So do you want to make this thing happen, Pat? You cut a $6 or $7 million check to Jalen Milroe.
200 carries.
West Virginia is in the college football playoff. Okay?
Is Pat going to make Jalen kick a field goal first? Like, hey, listen, we'll give you $4 million, but if you make this kick, we'll give you $8 million.
Look, I'm just
What
saying, as
what
a
he should do
college
is just be
football
like-
fan, Milroe and Rich Rod's offense is going to be absolute fireworks.
Now, what he should do is structure this like Ricky Williams incentive style. Be like, all right, Jalen, here you go. It's $25,000 per every carry up to 175. Every additional carry over 175, which is like the lesser included implication here that he stays healthy, you know, $50,000 per carry for every carry over 175. So like if you carry it 225 times, that would be like $7.5 million. And I think if West Virginia was like, guess what? You're guaranteed 225 Jalen Milroe carries. I think they would pay that because they're like, holy cow, he stayed healthy for the whole year and we got to run him like crazy in Rich Rod system. Done. Like it's good value for both sides. Maybe not for Milroe long term though. His agent would probably.
I would watch the hell out of West Virginia next year.
I'm already going to be like, they're already on the watch list, you know, just with the idea of sort of Rich Rodriguez being back, that kind of hard ass energy he's already bringing. He's going to bring a little old school coaching. Like, let's go. Speaking of a new age problem, congratulations to Louisiana Tech. You know, you're in the Independence Bowl because Marshall has lost more than 25 players to the transfer portal in the wake of Charles Huff's exit. And they have opted out of the Independence Bowl. So with Marshall being out, they are not going to go up against Army with an absolute skeleton depth chart. That is putting Louisiana Tech into the bowl game. Congratulations to Sonny Cumbie and the Bulldogs and the Cayusa for getting to cash themselves a nice little bowl check there, and enjoy Shreveport Independence Bowl, one of our nation's great bowl experiences. But yikes, is this our first, because we've had COVID related opt-outs and we've had like COVID related opt-outs. This one's pretty blatant.
Well, and it's a problem because you had a coach leave and the whole team enters the portal and they don't really have the players that all were like, peace, I'm out. We don't even know if Charles Huff's going to bring them with him yet, right? There's 25 players in. Is he taking them all?
I don't know, but don't accept the invite. It's not like you didn't know this was coming.
Oh, if you're Marshall.
Yeah. You knew that Huff was out the door. Why? I think bigger picture.
I like that, by the way.
What?
Just like where everyone's trying to point blame. We're trying to like figure out like, what is this? How do we?
Marshall's fault for accepting the invite to begin with when you knew your coach was leaving, that a bunch of players were planning to enter the portal with him. But I think bigger picture, this is more of a concern for bowl games in general.
Yep.
Because we talked about it earlier with Pribula, with the portal and all of this crap happening at the same time. If the schools are still attached to universities, you can't really move the portal window because of classes starting. So it's like you can't move it to February because you can't enroll in the middle of a semester. So I think the only logistical change that you can make is to get rid of some bowl games. And I think that with the playoff and further expansion, we are going to see fewer and fewer bowl games. We might just see them fade away altogether at some point, which will allow players that aren't in the playoff to just go in the portal and coaches just to start getting ready for the next season. Because I do think that this won't be the last time we see this.
I mean, I there's so many bowls I think we do like. Even if we don't love like the bowl industrial complex and kind of what it, kind of held the playoff hostage for so long. There's a lot of good bowls that I think like people locally still enjoy. It's still a fun thing to go do. I don't know how you save it with this though. I maybe you give more NIL to play in it, but like how does that actually make sense for for the team? They're not that big of a moneymaker for the teams, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Are we gonna have rev share for the playoff?
Maybe.
Ooh, I don't know.
I think there's probably some legalese you got to break through to make that possible, though.
Right. It was disappointing, obviously, and on the like super advanced this thing moving forward. My brain was like, well, what does that say about the team that Tony Gibson's taking over? I mean, you have to rebuild a roster at certain levels with certain ability to construct it. What's your hope? Is your hope that you get that Brian? Remember Brian Vincent got a ULM roster that we looked at and we were like, guys, what's going on here? They come out a little bit better than expected. I would say season as a whole, water found its level with the Warhawks a little. Exceeded expectations early, kind of came back to earth. But I mean, is that the position that Marshall's going to be in? I think that Marshall's probably got more resources than ULM, but we're not talking about wildly different stratospheres here.
I think if I'm Tony Gibson, I'm making clear to the players that have entered the portal that were on the roster last year that the door isn't shut. Like in case it was an emotional decision, they're just upset about their coach and how things went down there, saying, listen, you guys want to be in the portal, that's fine. But if you're not getting what you were hoping to get, you are welcome to return here. I think that's kind of the approach you have to take because he needs to field a roster.
Yeah. Going to be something to keep an eye on. So Tuesday night. And again, just from a programming perspective, a lot of you have mentioned something on social media. I've tried to respond to those of you who I've seen the comments. We are going to be taking the bowls kind of as they go. It's always difficult with the transfers and the opt-outs to try to make your picks weeks and weeks in advance, unless you're throwing me and Danny to the wolves and asking us to pick all 42 bowl games and holding us accountable for it. But you know what? We answered that call. So Memphis, West Virginia, Frisco Bowl on Tuesday night. Who's got a feel? What kind of play? A Twitter tip? What are we looking to tackle here in the Frisco Bowl?
What kind of weather are we looking at, Tom?
I don't know. I should look at that because I will be making a pick for this game in about 50 minutes on HQ myself.
Toyota,
you have a theory? We talked a little bit about this in our Bowl Bonanza show that we did, Bowlnanza. If you have a coach who's there, you're kind of excited about, you want to impress, like, does that make West Virginia play harder and more motivated? Because that's always what you're looking for, is who wants to be there. I think I lean towards West Virginia because of that in our picks. I forget who I had.
These games are an absolute crapshoot, man. Like I look at more than anything, like the motivation I think is a huge part, but it's like, so Neil Brown's gone. West Virginia doesn't have a ton of guys in the portal, but they do have guys who could be opting out. You look at Memphis. Do we know if Mario Anderson's playing in this game or not? Because that's kind of important for them.
I heard Hennigan was.
For the most part, Memphis is full strength. The only real question I've seen is the running back Mario Anderson. I lean Memphis. But again, you have no idea. I would much rather bet bowls live than pregame.
Oh, this is honestly one of my favorite picks of the week. Okay. West Virginia arrived in the Big 12. They were in the Big East. A lot of the Big East turned into the AAC. And you know what they don't have in the AAC? No D.
D.
Yeah. No, I'm on the over 58.5 all day. Memphis overs in general have been just kind of a nice, comfortable position. And when, Danny, to your point, when I'm considering the like West Virginia buy-in factor, I would say that in these kind of matchups, if you do decide we're going out there, all right, let's go make something happen, it's probably with some of those skill players because you know what's fun? Scoring touchdowns. Like I could see you want to go out there, you want to hit some explosive plays. So Memphis football, West Virginia also not being a great defensive team when they're full strength.
Correct.
It's kind of, I look at, in 58.5 is a big number. I get it, but I'm on the over 58.5 on that one.
You know, I looked it up. Going back to 2014, the over is hitting in 52% of all bowl games. So Chip, if you really just want to have like a 38-38 kind of bowl season and pay some vig, you can just blindly take the over on every game, and that's exactly what you'll get.
R and ROIs for recreation, heading overs in every single bowl game, tip the dealer, and just walk out. I'm not going to do that in every bowl game because we do have some weather conditions and we do have some teams that are going to find it very difficult to score touchdowns. I just think that we've got a Memphis offense that could be loaded up to score. We've got a Memphis defense that allowed a lot of points this year. West Virginia defense that was there to be had. I could see this one late night. I mean, it's the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl. You know they're going to have some pep in their step. So, yeah, I'm going to go over 58.5 on that one.
Have you had Scooter's Coffee?
Maybe. Have you?
Yeah.
Okay. Programming note for the rest of the week. Wednesday, going to be given a big game breakdown treatment to those first round playoff games. And then on Thursday, the first ever edition of the first round college football playoff locks. Then Friday, during the day, we will be on CBS Sports Network at noon Eastern time with a general college football playoff preview. Then I saw your comments in the tailgate. Yes, we're going to be live after the conclusion of Notre Dame, Indiana on Friday night, and then live after the conclusion of our late game is Ohio State, Tennessee on Saturday night. So Friday night, instant reaction. Saturday night, instant reaction. Big game breakdown on Wednesday, 11 a.m. Playoff locks Thursday, 11 a.m. And on CBS Sports Network, noon Eastern time on Friday.
Man, we're kind of busy on Friday, aren't we?
Yeah. Real, and it's in a Christmas pageant stuffed in there somewhere. So, you know, God rest you, merry gentlemen. We'll figure it out. Okay. So come and check us out Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. And you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fornelli. You can follow him at Danny Kanell. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. You can follow me at Chip _Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.